Right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the launch event for Diane Lee Moomey's book, Make for Higher Ground, which it was my greatest pleasure to publish this summer. I remember when I read the entries for the open reading, being struck by Diane's voice and just how honest and unapologetic her poems are. I feel that it's unique in this era to have that kind of voice that doesn't really care what other people think about what you're writing, apart from the fact that it's good. So, you know, quality, yes, but also a very strong voice and personality came through the poems. So it's my pleasure to introduce Diane to you, and just to tell you what's going to happen for the next hour. Diane is going to read for about 20 minutes and share some of the wonderful poems in the book, and maybe, I don't know, some new work as well, Diane, or is it all book poems that we're going to do?
I thought it was supposed to be all from the book.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. You can just read the book poems. Okay. And after Diane's work has been shared, we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A. Now, I have prepared some questions for Diane, but I'd also very happily welcome questions from the audience. If anyone has any, then you can either type them into the chat or raise your hand at the point where we're asking questions, and then you can ask Diane yourself. Okay, so Diane is obviously from California. You know, most of you, I believe, are also from California, but she has lived and wandered all over the US and even Canada, as it says on the back of the book. She is one of the co-hosts of the monthly reading series at Half Moon Bay. I'm sure some of you have been to that. I believe, is this the one I'm featuring for in February, Diane?
It is, yes, Coastside Poetry.
A little plug for me in there. Now that we do these things by Zoom, you can have a New Jersey poet
yes.
for your reading series.
Yes.
So she's often been reading in the San Francisco Bay Area, and some of her publication credits include Light, The MacGuffin, Mezzo Queen, which of course I edit. I don't know if you knew that. It's probably where I first came across Diane's poetry, actually. Poetrymagazine.com, California Poetry Quarterly, Caesura, and Red Wheelbarrow. She's been nominated for a Pushcart Prize, and she's won prizes and honorable mentions in the sonnet and creative nonfiction categories of the Soul Making Keats Literary Contest and in the Ina Coolbrith Circle. Now, praise for Make for Higher Ground. There's obviously what it says on the back of the book, but I also wanted to read to you what was said in the only Amazon review that exists so far, which is by, where is it? There you go. Which is by somebody called J.C. Davis. I don't know if that's a pen name for anyone here. And it says on Amazon, exquisite, 5 stars. Poetry that soothes the soul, awakens the spirit, opens the doors of perception. So that's what somebody chose to write on Amazon about Diane's work. And I think that fits it very aptly also. So without further ado, I would like to hand the event over to Diane, who's going to share some of the poems from Make for Higher Ground. Diane?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna, for saying such nice things about me, and thank you all for coming. And I especially want to thank Kathleen McClung for encouraging me to prepare a manuscript and submit it to Barefoot Muse Press, to Anna's press, because I did not have a manuscript in mind. I had a lot of poems, but as soon as Kathleen said, you know, I think she'd like your work. But, all right, let's see if I can make a book out of this. And so thank you so much. And I was thinking about a theme for this book. And for many years, I've consulted the I Ching in times of difficulty, and always finding some usable wisdom in the hexagrams that take place beneath my fingers. Number 1, the creative. Number 5, calculated waiting. Number 8, holding together, repairing what has been spoiled, biting through, innocence, the well, cauldron, fellowship. And the one that I chose to use as the theme of this small book, number 57, Penetrating Influence. It is easy to become lost in the hugeness of a situation. One can forget, for example, how much there is to learn from the small, steady movements of the natural world. How much can be accomplished by a single person in gentle but persistent pushing in the desired direction. How much transformative power can be unleashed by a single untimely death, a wrongful death, and how much can be found in those tiny things we call words. The first few poems are from the section I'm calling Small Wild Things. Wearing snakes. I let them wrap around my wrists, the sleek green scales, so like the bracelet, golden linked, that mother wears to parties. So alike, I close my eyes while wearing one and feel the other. In summer's green beside the fence, by long stems my father's mower doesn't reach, I wait, place my wrist on mullein, grasses, dock, they part. I intercept and lift, feel it wrap. Snake will twine around an arm, always, body taut and steadying itself against a fall. Ruby tongue flicks in and out. In my own world, I am, ruby tongue tastes, the only little girl who wears snakes. In tall red grasses once I found a nest, not far from where we'd parked the Chevy. Twigs and stems were finely twined. A speckled egg was empty. I took a yellow feather, left the rest. Above my head, the grasses closed and only traffic noises told the way back. I lost the place. 20 paces west and 30 north. I had supposed we'd all return this summer or at least in fall, but I lost your speckled shell, your feathers, path, the chance to see you all, or 30 paces south and 20 east. Just the once in this entire life have I ever asked the gift of flight. Freeway exit. Wild geese fly the 101, not quite on these 4 lanes north and 4 south plus median, but above us, a ragged line, its leader purposefully beating wind, long neck reaching, heading east along the exit ramp to Bayfront Park. Cousin geese wait there, surely, enough to make a quorum, enough to form the necessary V for the voyage south. Silent geese, these. What with the tires hiss and thumpings over potholes, what with the whistle of winds around my half-downed window, black beaks seem nearly open, but oh, I know they are honking. Chaparral. Your window width's enough of it tonight. Not for this hour, the outdoor stride of noontime, foxtail stuck to denim, the click, the hiking stick. Your blinds reveal the moon-dark slope divided into neat gray slices. When that's too much, twist the plastic bar to lay the slats against the glass, turn up the radio, blot out the yucca and the sage, the calls of all that's feral. You know the wild is out there. That might be all you need. Purling. A lazy morning in the beds. Oysters lie awaiting drifting plankton, shells agape. Comes a flounder flicking sand and mollusk lips close too late, shut around the shards, cannot spit them out. Flotsam, jetsam, lie atop the tongues. Years will pass. The rubble will be buried in a limey mantle. Nascent pearl, the years, the nacre. Core forgotten, a word, a look, a letter. In darkened rooms, our tides and currents. Bivalves open, bivalves close, and purling simply happens. Slow spheres, oysters wrapped around, soft around, dark around, and blind to our own pearls. These next few from the section I'm calling Tap Roots look back to where I came from. 40 days. From deep within the rows of August corn, a trill, vibrato, every other living voice is still for just a breath. Entangled verge beside the field, in trees, among the ears, cicadas well concealed. Then locusts recommence their creaking, leaping. Sticky feet rebound off stems of thistle, chicory, and me, bare-legged, deep in milkweed. Blackbirds note. I open woody pods, set flossy seeds afloat. On porches, grandmamas weave ribbons out and in and out of eyelets. Pin, unpin, for owners of curly-headed dolls. Yards of lace. They're fastening the ends around the tiny waists, while grandpas speak in adages, chaw, lament the fish that got away. Up, and without a pause, it's circling as geese fly south and north again, and summer follows summer, bringing forth another incarnation of this very thistle, cricket, chicory, and milkweed, ribbon, whistle of blackbird and of train, the wispy rows of corn, the grandmamas, the homilies, all circling, adorning this life. Cicada trills again from spot unknown. Up, it's 40 days till frost, grandpa's intone. This next one is about the house that we used to go to when my grandmother was, the one my grandmother was living in when we used to go and visit her during the summers. The other attic. A separate attic lies above. Her former summer kitchens now outlived its own significance and gathers rust, is well endowed with residue of eras past. Acanthus leaves of tarnished gold on iron stove, a basket full of oak unburned, the brown of old linoleum, a harness hung beside an empty stall for ghost horse, braided rug that's left a bright spot underneath, a chair, almost as if she'd walked away, forgetting. All that's below. Above's a square within a square, a ceiling door to attic rooms without a stair. I'd only need a ladder. I'd reach and push that square aside, unseal that other attic, not the one that holds our bedrooms, and reveal what must be hidden. Once inside, I'd open trunks and boxes, pry, so certain that I'd found the place where all the family secrets lie. Our family tended to play its cards very close to the vest. This next one, I suppose you could call ekphrastic because it was inspired by a black and white photograph, one of those ones from the Brownie cameras from so long ago of my mother's mother at Lake Champlain. Portrait with paper bag. Your fingers in the book to mark your place, but Perry Mason's out of mind for now. You're leaning forward in the straight-backed kitchen chair you've dragged beneath the boughs of elms. Behind, the lake's a streak of dark between two lighter ones. The weeds are long and won't be mowed till fall, so blurry grasses nearly touch the lens. The light is strong, you squint. This camera lens, your head reveals it, cocked to one side, as well as your wide eyes. Your lips curved up around a long forgotten word tell it. This lens is carried by someone you could never live without. You wear a 40s dress that flaps around your feet, while on your head's a shopping bag. It's square at top. The edge is rolled to make a brim, a paper shopping bag. But this is not because you have no hats, because a lady has hats, plenty of hats, made or bought for every task. But maybe all of yours are battened down in boxes, still unpacked from days of travel. And this offering from A&P, this lovely paper sack was right beside the chair. The milk and bread, the cream of wheat and crackers put away, and you were ready, just so very ready to carpe the sunny diem at Lake Champlain. I hope she hears that one, wherever she is. Yeah. This is one where I'm in, I guess you would call it a persona poem. I am imagining myself inside the head of one of my four mothers with many children. Cusp. So now, when silence reigns upstairs, demanding voices stilled in sleep and childish dreams, when in this bare and empty midnight, every cup for once is washed and rinsed, each mote of dust swept up, the missing buttons found and sewn and every weed dispatched, the edge between tomorrow and today rolls smooth beneath my fingers. Now I can believe in magma melting stone, in caves of water miles below my feet. And yes, I do believe I hear the sigh of passing space, my planet cycling at dizzy speed around the sun. This one's kind of a turn, a little bit. It was written before COVID, but the tone of denial seems eerily timely. Matryoshka, your darkling melanoma casts its shadow over all. You say that healing's happening. Your last tests are a lie. I turn my face aside, avoid your eyes. Today, your doctor says you qualify for hospice, better not to wait. You say he lies, avoid my eyes. Your son and daughter will come by. They're taking you to Europe soon, or Mexico. The latest trials are promising, and you'll refuse to make a will. My love for you affords no place to hide. To sign would mean declaring you approve. You give permission to be dying. You are making plans for Mardi Gras next year. My tears will come, they'll go. Your daughter's in the room comparing fares. New Orleans, perhaps, or Rio. I wrote this next one within a couple months of the 2016 election and was hoping it would soon be dated, but unfortunately, it does not seem to be. Water above, water below. This is a riff on I Ching hexagram number 29, translated as danger. It's the hexagram for water above the hexagram for water, so it's double danger. The lights are going out, dear, one by one. Circuits short. Listen, the crack of lines downed, drowned by water rising from the dark beneath our feet. Wicks, damp, go limp, collapse in lipid puddles, hissing. Flashlights flicker, fail in swamps new made by dams broken, oaths broken. Water goes where water will, filling. Water mixed with gas, soaking wood, bringing to the surface pestilence once hid. Listen, filaments of bulbs, bright, their wires thin as hairs, now snap. Tungsten ringlets droop. One shakes the glass in disbelief, only tinkling within. The lamps are going out, dear, one by precious one, and it's for us to choose to live in darkness or, blind and trembling, make for higher ground and set ourselves alight. And here are a couple of pandemic poems, again, not as dated as I thought they would be. Kiss, Kiss, 2020. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll meet outside your house. I'll squeeze Purell into my right palm and gently stroke your left cheek. You'll do the same for me, from lip to ear. We'll make kissing noises, hold our breaths, and being careful not to sneeze, we'll press those pristine cheeks together. Our mingled hair will flutter in the wind. I won't care that you don't ask me in for fear of pathogens. We'll walk companionably onto Pete's, 6 feet between, order matching cappuccinos to go. Pandemic picnic, a proposal. Meet me at my car, masked, and spread a tablecloth, freshly washed, across my hood. I have made us bread. We'll take a fender each. I will reach across with love and gloves to pass you opener and anchor steam. Sanitize your hands, a dish, a mango, and a knife. Make slices, turn the rind. My bracelets will jangle, shaking crispy crackers from the box, arranging cheese with tweezers. Crows will wait to catch the things we drop. On a plate beside the figs and grapes you wash so well, life boy, I can tell. Finger bowls of alcohol in case. Pigeons will pass over, sure to leave a billet-doux. How very blue and white our sky is. I'll say I do believe tomorrow's forecast is for thunder showers. We have umbrellas, and ours. Change of gears. Am I freezing during, or can you hear me okay? Am I freezing a lot?
Just every now and then, but
Okay.
it's fine. It's not spoiling anyone's enjoyment of the.
Okay. If I freeze long enough to mess up one poem, just raise your hand and I'll read that poem again.
It's been fine so far.
Okay, great. I have a couple love poems now. This is for my late former husband. Deciduous, a ballad for Tim. Our paddles dip in unison. We do this well together. My bow, your stern, the dog between. We've had a change of weather and only loons are talking now. Small snow, the empty trees, the delicate bones of hills behind, the black and white of these are all around our red canoe. Our silent maple blades in synchronistic change of sides drip with small cascades, and circle after circle grows across the empty lake. Behind, a swimming beaver slaps and wake is crossing wake. You bring us in, I tie the lines, the simple tasks of docking. I'm carrying our packs ashore, but only loons are talking. The do-si-do of making camp. We do this well together and hammer stakes in unison, unwrap the tent. We tether every corner tight. We kindle fire, cook. We meet the dark with sleeping bags, the dog between, and books. She rarely barks. We have had other winters, true. I always wondered then about our weather, when and if we'd see a spring again. Beneath the trees, our pages turn, the Coleman lantern hisses, the dog is snoring. We exchange the briefest goodnight kisses. Making coffee, breaking camp, we do this well together. But white caps, wind, and lowered skies promise heavy weather. "7 a.m. Raku's the name I give these pots of tender clay, fired and coated in a wash of powdered glass and flamed again. With tongs, I've pulled them out at orange heat and dropped them into vats of grasses, sawdust, straw, perhaps to shatter into glitter, or to crack with blackened webs like highway maps across a glossy surface. Plates and cups that now hold tea and coffee. Crackle lines that trace their crazy route a little farther round the curve with every morning's pour. The way our faces crease and fold themselves around our forks and spoons, the bagel crumbs and butter, kisses, our bits of daily news. I'd like to end with the last poem in the book and dedicate it to all you word crafters, as I see every single one of you in this room is an excellent, wonderful, much needed word crafter. The work of words. Your villanelle assures the break of day, subdues green eyes beyond the fire's light. My sonnets hold the roofless dark at bay. The chanting drum, our dancing feet make tame the taloned wild. The ballad speeds the night, the villain liturgy, to pray in chapter, stanza, verse, arrest the lightning. Your sonnets hold the hungry dark at bay, and lullaby and fable chase away the wolf beneath the bed, the ghouls that bite. The villanelle ensures another day. The forest lurks beyond the glass. Charades, sestinas, odes, pantoums protect our lighted rooms. The sonnet holds the dark at bay. The rhyming lines, the pulse, cantabile, accompanied by lute, by flute and fife. My villanelle assures the break of day. Your sonnets hold the roofless dark at bay. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, 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 Diane. I can't tell you how good it is to hear the poems in your voice. Now, obviously, you and I have been working together on this book all summer long, and so I am very familiar with many of the pieces, but to actually hear you read them is a true delight. So thank you very much. I hope
thank you for saying that.
Enjoyed that as much as I did, and certainly from the comments in the chat, it would seem that people did. So now we move on to the question and answer portion of the event. I haven't seen any questions pop up in the chat, but do have a think about it, people, if there's something that you particularly want to ask Diane. Otherwise, I'm just going to start with my list that I have here. Now, I should say that when I was preparing these questions, I didn't want to be the boring person who always asks, you know, what are your poetic influences and what would you tell young poets who are just starting out? So some of these are a little bit outside the box, and hopefully, well, unfortunately, Diane did get to see them in advance. So.
I asked for a preview of the question.
She isn't being totally blindsided here, but let's see what she has to say. So the first question is, do you come from a literary background, Diane?
More a musical background. My mother was a classically trained musician, pianist and organist, and my father adored country western. You can kind of imagine how well they got along together. But the house was filled with music, and we had bedtime stories, and there were books, and I had that set of wonderful junior classics. I don't know if any of you ever grew up with that too, but it took up about that much space on the shelf. It's about 12 books. So that was about as literary as our family was. But I wrote from a very early age. I wrote a lot of little poems and verses and wrote and painted and drew. So.
Great.
I'm very long-winded, so, you know, you need to kind of head me off at the pass when you want to ask your
That's fine. That's fine.
next question.
We do have a question in the chat, which is from Laurel Benjamin, and she says, Diane, do you set up to write in a particular form, or do you end up choosing a form like a sonnet or whatever as fits the writing? Which is an excellent question. So do you set up to write a sonnet, or do you end up fitting the writing in whatever form?
If I'm left to myself, the pieces come out generally in free verse or even prose sometimes, because they all start in my journal and I just go scribble, 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 you know, from side to side. And then later, I will often decide, even after a poem has been pretty good or even published in free verse, I will decide that I want another go at it. When I'm taking a class, like for the last year, I've been taking classes in formal poetry with Annie Finch. And for those, the intention to write formally is already there from the beginning. So it's like, okay, either what can I find of my free verse that I can cast into a villanelle, or can I actually, you know, start one from scratch? But I think I'd have to say that the form comes later, mostly.
Good, interesting. Okay, question 2 from my list. What literary pilgrimages have you gone on?
I haven't really gone on any literary pilgrimages per se, but I did spend a very long time in lay Dharma retreats and Vajrayana Buddhist retreats. And those took me to a place where, although I had not expected it particularly, where I had deeper access to writing. I think I was more liberated. I felt more that I could write about different things. My early poetry was very much influenced by Rumi and other visionary poets, and you know, tended to be maybe more abstract. And my poetry has become more concrete, I would say. More, I use more earthy images and that. And I feel that Buddhist time was the turning point. Like, so it was kind of a literary pilgrimage, although it wasn't intended to be.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's what you meant. I've never gone to Emily Dickinson's house or anything like that.
I mean, I personally was thinking of my own literary pilgrimage to Sylvia Plath's grave, but I love your answer, so that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is a good one. Does a big ego help or hurt poets?
I don't know if it has any, if it makes any difference in the actual composing of poetry, but I think if you want to put your work out there and suffer the rejections and all that, I think you have to have quite a reasonably strong ego.
Right.
I think it's important to feel that I have something to say. I'm saying it the best I possibly can. Next year, I might say it better, but this is what it is right now. And if they don't like it, that's their tough luck.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
My first mentor, when I was back in the I don't want to send things out because I don't want to be rejected, told me that the best poets are arrogant. He says, I want you to go out there and be arrogant. Well, okay, I'll work on it. So at least that I'm arrogant in my own mind. I don't know how much it actually comes out, but. So.
I agree. And from the perspective of being the female editor of a journal for women poets, you know, I would wish a certain amount of arrogance on all of the people who submit to the journal, because I want them to keep sending in the poems, even if I have to reject them one time. I want them not to go, oh, that's it, I'm never submitting again. I believe we have another question in the chat, so let me go look. This is from Monica Cord, and it is, Diane, impressions from India reflect beautifully through some of your poems. Do you often find different cultures influencing your writing, and does it change your poetic process?
I think having spent so much time in the Tibetan culture, which is because Vajrayana Buddhism is one of the Tibetan forms, and there's a large Tibetan community not too far from here where I spent a lot of time, and that definitely did influence my ways of looking at things, and just when you, it's like learning a second language teaches you more about your own, and you kind of you hear the two talking to each other in a way. I felt the same.
Oh, Diane has frozen.
With the culture, that culture, rural Quebec, and that was another kind of culture clash where I did feel shaped. I couldn't tell you exactly how it changed me or shaped me, but I just saw things differently. For one thing, I stopped talking so much because I couldn't go on and on in French. You know, I had to spend a few minutes and compose something and then interpret the answer that came back. So, so it made me more quiet. And I think that made me pay more attention to what was going on inwardly. So I don't know, does that answer your question? Yeah.
Monica, are you satisfied with that answer? I think she is.
Absolutely. Stunning. Thank you so much, Diane. Thanks,
You're
Anna.
welcome. And I'm meeting more and more people now as I'm getting out and about in the Bay Area, and particularly on Zoom. I mean, I'm meeting people that I wouldn't have met if I was just physically doing things in Half Moon Bay, or even like going over the hill once in a while. But I've been meeting people from everywhere. The classes I'm taking with Annie Finch, I mean, we've had some students from Israel, some from India, some from all over. And I can feel like the winds, all the different winds blowing, and we're shaping each other, I think, as we interact like that.
I do think that one of the things we've grown from the pandemic is this ability to connect in more than just the local environment. So I've never had a launch reading for a West Coast poet before because, you know, they're not on the East Coast, but here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. All right. I'm going to skip over some of these questions because we're getting such great questions from the audience, but there are a couple I really want to ask you. So,
okay. Oh dear.
Here is one of them, which is, do you want each of your books to stand on its own, or are you trying to build a body of work with connections between the books?
I don't think I may have made a decision about that, but I definitely feel that they are linked. Like each one is building on the other. There are certain things I keep coming back to, like human and nature, the interface of human being and nature, and certain other themes. And as I go deeper, it feels like a spiral. That what I wrote in like my first book, maybe in free verse, I might want to come back to and cast something into form, and with a deeper view of it. So at the same time, I wouldn't want my books to be dependent on a person having read all the ones before, like, for it to make sense. So I'd like them to stand alone so that someone could just pick it up and enjoy what's there. But I would also like readers who've read more than one to feel the the connection, the continuity, the issues that are important to me that I keep coming back to.
Good. We have another question in the chat. This one is from Veronica Kornberg, and it says, Diane, can you tell us a little about your process of choosing and arranging the poems into a book?
Well, I can, let's see. I'll start with this book, and I'll try to be really brief, because the call for entry for this book was a rather narrow, because it was work in form, like metrical work in form, like not like hard and fast, but that's definitely where the preference was. So what it meant was going back through all my work and seeing, do I have enough? The number of pages that was required. And then clustering them into, first finding a theme, because when I had talked with Kathleen about it, she had said, I think it would be a really good idea to have a unifying theme for the book. So, okay, what am I gonna, how am I going to verbalize a theme here? So so then it was just a long process of printing out all the poems that I wanted, kind of laying them out in these are kind of nature and human interface. These are love poems. These are my God, ain't it awful poems, and and so on. And kind of putting those ain't it awful poems kind of in the middle, so I don't start with them and don't end with them. I learned a lot about a story arc, a book arc from Casey Fitzsimmons. I don't know if any of you know her, but she was really a strong mentor for me long ago, and talked about because I didn't even know what a story arc was. So she showed me. And so then I started to think about what arc do I want to create during this? And so that was this book, which was a short one. And the previous book, where I had no restrictions, but just actually Casey told me it was time for a book, that I hadn't done one in a while, and it was high time that I put a book together. So I had like 120 pages worth of stuff. And in a way, it was a similar situation, only I was a lot looser about it, because I didn't have a unifying theme. It was just kind of, well, Figure in a Landscape was the title of it. And it was like me moving through my world. So does that make any sense, Veronica?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right. Again, I'm going to skip a couple, but I've really wanted to know the answer to this. It should be brief. As a writer, what would you choose as your spirit animal?
Weasel.
Excellent.
Weasel ermine.
Weasel.
Because I have had, when I was living in the wilds of Quebec with my late former husband, attempting to homestead, there was a weasel that came in. The weasels are not pets. Know that. And this is not like feeding squirrels and making them tame. This is wild. It's too long to go into now the details of it, but there were 3 or 4 interchanges that I had with this weasel that showed me without a doubt the connection between human and wild animal. It was, it's this kind of thing you wouldn't believe unless it happened to you. So I'm not even going to tell you, what happened. But because that happened, it changed my view about a lot of other things. And it also changed my view about, or made me more aware of my own mind state, that there is the human aspect of that. And then there is the, I don't know, you might call it like the limbic creature, or maybe not quite as deep as that, but which we tend to suppress those aspects of ourselves. And as a writer, I feel it's really important to be able to access that. We might not necessarily be able to verbalize it, but to write from that place, I think, even if you don't come up with something that is publishable, it shows me where I am.
Hmm.
Does that make any sense at all?
Yes, yes. No, I love it. Unique. Okay, just a couple more because we're cutting.
And then I read Annie Dillard's essay, Living with Weasels in Teaching a Stone to Talk. She had the same kind of interchange with a weasel that I was talking. I mean, different setting, but that same kind of thing. So, yes, it's not just me. It's not just me. No.
Okay, I'm going to try and fit in two more questions, unless there's any more from the audience that I haven't seen. Okay. I really want to know, do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will find?
If I'm writing memoir poems, I will conceal names and identifying details more to protect myself from anything else than for any other reason. But I don't set out deliberately to hide secrets, but some of the poems, sometimes I just really want to write about a particular thing. In my very first book, Place, I wrote a prose piece, like it was kind of a literary prosy piece, and where I really wanted to write it, but would have gotten into serious trouble, if I'd let all the details show. So I hid a lot, but I did not want anyone to find it out.
Right.
It was just, I thought this was a great story and I wanted to tell it, but I wanted it to be hidden. But some family things, of course, even like the story might be super, and it might map onto many other people's stories. But as long as I'm writing under my own name, then, other family members might feel very upset. How could you let people know that this went on in our family? That kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Last question is the last question on the list. Has a poem ever humbled or frightened you? What was it? When did it happen? And what did you do afterwards?
I wasn't sure from the question whether you meant a poem of my own or a poem of someone else's.
Either.
But the first thing that came to my mind were a couple poems of my own, which I started writing them from a very strong sense of pressure, like inner pressure. And what came out was definitely not, it was not pretty. And sometimes, a couple times was a real shock. And so then I had to spend a lot of time thinking about, well, am I just going to keep these as part of my own personal, private, dark side portfolio, or am I going to, is anything useful, to put out? And then I started meeting some people, particularly during this Zoom year. I've been part of many groups that I would not have before, and some really encouraged letting it all hang out. So I thought, well, all right, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And some actually got to the point of being published. But it was very, very frightening when they first started to come out. I thought, oh Lord, I don't want anybody to know this about me. Oh, that kind of thing. So,
yes.
does that answer?
Yeah, I think we all have those poems, right? We've all written those poems. And I always like to say, you know, just because a poem is in the first person doesn't mean that it's biographical. But of course, most of them are. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you can get away with
Somebody once asked me why I didn't write, why I wrote a particular poem in the third person and not in the first.
right.
I forget what poem it was, but because I had been writing so many in the first, I thought, you know what, I'm getting, my vision is it's too from me.
Right.
And changing the person in a poem changes my view about it, like going from first to third makes me see it differently and different words come out.
Right, right. Or even second. I quite like second person.
Yes,
Or even first person plural poems, which are really interesting, I think, as well.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm conscious of the fact that it is close to 6 o'clock. I think this has
Okay.
been wonderful. I am going to stop recording, and then everyone who wants to can unmute themselves and have a quick chat with Diane, or just clap. But Diane, thank you so much for spending this
Oh,
evening.
thank you. I mean, if it hadn't been for you,
Well,
this
Barefoot Muse
wouldn't be
Press,
happening, you know.
let me just give a little plug for Barefoot Muse Press. It is a press that largely publishes poetry with some allegiance to form, which you heard Diane allude to earlier on when she talked about gathering together all her formal poems to submit. And the next open reading period will be in April of 2022. So, all right.
And tell us the name again of your press,
Barefoot Muse Press. Barefoot Muse Press.
Barefoot
The
Muse
Facebook
Press.
page. This recording will be on the Facebook page at some point later today. And obviously Diane's book is available. And Kathleen, if Kathleen McClung is still present, I also published Kathleen McClung. So
Yes, yes.
right, I'm going to
And
stop
her
the
book is
recording.
still available too.
Yes.
Almost
Oh,
kin.
wonderful. So as I say, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and have a quick chat with Diane, then now would be your time.